access and control over their own medical data or records. With Meetup, not only can patients access their own data, they will also be incentivized when they share them amongst other parties for various purposes, such as predictive personalized treatments, smart insurance claims, telemedicine, and more. Using Meetup tokens, it enables patients, hospitals, researchers, and insurers to build a vibrant ecosystem based on the exchange and advancement of health data. With Meetup's ecosystem, the community can efficiently access data, generate advanced analytics, customize applications, and more. Meetup, transforming healthcare for all. Be part of our community today.
All right, Meetup is a healthcare data program built on the principles of patient centricity, privacy, and equitable data sharing. So Meetup allows doctors and the patients to fully unlock the value of their medical data. Meetup's focus is the health data, EHR. So there are several problems of the current EHR systems. First of all, they are fragmented. There are so many EHR solutions in the market, and they are not operatable. So that leads to information silos. Secondly, there's a lack of patient centricity and privacy. The patients don't have the control of their data. Many are look at EHR and AR markets. So in 2016, the market size of EHR was estimated at around 28 billion, and it increased to 38 billion in 2025. Among this, Asia is the fastest growing EHR market, and this is where many are look at. For AI in healthcare analytics, it was estimated around 600 billion in 2014, and it goes about 10 times in 2021. And this is 10 times growth in only the next 3 years. Now, if you look at the stakeholders of Meetup, there are three parties: patients, companies, and government hospitals. For patients, it's very simple. They want data privacy, they want clean data, they want personalized insights. For commercial companies, like research institutes, pharmaceutical companies, and insurance, they want access to this aggregated, anonymized data, and then they want insights from this data to drive businesses. For governments and hospitals, it's even trivial. They want the data to be secure and keep it privacy. Last but not least, they want an efficient channel to make this happen. And now, today, Meetup provides a solution that is holistic, patient-centric, personalized, and decentralized. Being holistic, we mean that every patient can access the data anytime, anywhere, a complete history of their data. Being patient-centric, the patients can and have a full control of their healthcare data. Personalized using our advanced analytics overlay Gemini. Meetup facilitates personalized treatment strategies. Last but not least, patients' data are stored in different locations, and this prevents the single catastrophic breach. Now, to make this happen, Meetup has been working extremely hard in the last 5 years, and we have published more than 20 peer-reviewed scientific papers. Now, our work can be separated into these three categories. The bottom layer is a database storage layer, where we invented a fork base. It is a proprietary database storage engine with rich semantics, immutability, and allows data sharing. It is also a blockchain-optimized native storage system, and you can find our paper published in VLDB 2018 and find our implementations and solutions. On the blockchain layer, our invention is more on the Hyperledger side. We improved and enhanced Hyperledger with trusted hardware, and we increased the throughput by 7 times. On the data analytics layer, so Being maintaining a data hub isn't that useful alone, so we provide analytics, and we developed a generalizable medical information analysis and integration platform called Gemini. It covers the whole pipelines of healthcare analytics, being it data acquisition, data cleaning, data integration, and data visualization. Now, Medical interacts the whole parties with two blockchains. One is Ethereum, another one is Avalanche. Ethereum is a payment, and Avalanche aggregates the data. We have several partners both in Singapore and China. We host National University Hospital, which is one of the largest public hospitals in Singapore, and we host several other hospitals in the Southeast Asia as well. We were so fortunate enough to receive several investments from our investors. We were first investor, received several, be it Signet Capital, Globes, and CP Capital. And there are several co-founders in this project. Professor Wei-Ming Chin is a fellow of IEEE and FACM. He is also a distinguished professor in National University of Singapore and holds several director positions in the US. He received Singapore President Science Awards in 2011 and receives outstanding overseas awards from China Computer Federation. He's giving a keynote speech next week in Hangzhou in China National Computer Congress. So if you're free around and you can pop by with him, say hi and ask him questions about Meetup as well. Dr. Niang is a group CTO of NUHS corporate office. So NUHS is one of the three largest clusters, medical clusters in Singapore. We have three other co-founders. Dr. Marcus Tan is a clinical lecturer in NUS, and Professor Zhang Weihui is a professor in Beijing. Me, Jiang Wei, I'm a PhD in computer science. My specialization is data analytics and generation. I generate fake data. So this is a timeline of Meetup. In 2019, our main focus is testing. And currently, we are testing our testnet with the Singapore Hospital, NUH. In 2020, our limited mainnet will be online, and in 2021 onwards, we are going outside Singapore and expand to Asia. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, John from Meetup. Our next presentation is going to be Jim from ENX, CEO and co-founder. Here he is.
Noted. 5 minutes.
The usual technical problems, give us a second.
Hello. All right. Anyone is still in the pre-sale or product sale stage. So anyone who is interested in investing, let me know. Please let me know. Right. I'll be around.
So guys, what we can see here is in the 21st century there are no cables, and then you have to connect to things through networks. And this is what
everything's flat.
Mondays. And it's a privilege for us to have you guys here and for you guys to be a part of this wonderful community. Crypto Mondays, for a lot of you that don't know what it is, it's really just a community effort. I'm passionate. They don't hear me. Okay. Crypto Mondays is community organized, community run. Everything that happens in here is built by the community. None of us get paid for this. We don't work in this full time. This is just our passion. And we think that there are too many events these days, too many meetups where people just show projects or they just want to show projects. And Crypto Mondays is a chance for us to talk about what's actually happening in this industry. So it's for people that are in this industry or people that are interested in this industry to actually have a place where we can discuss this. We have a couple of WeChat groups that you're welcome to join where we just talk about what's happening. How are we going on this? I can solve for only so long. Are we trying to scan your QR code with the computer? Really? Alright, just forget the past 3.5 minutes ever happened.
So please everybody welcome Jim, co-founder and CEO from EMX.
Thanks everyone for coming. Before we get started, I just want to get a sense of how many people trade crypto. Can I get
So how many people trade crypto?
Alright, great. How many people trade futures? Alright, decent. Alright, so, and how many people trade traditional futures? Like, hello? Alright, so what I'm going to be talking about is EMX. We're a futures exchange, and we're the future of derivatives trading. So we have a vision that in the future, we can build a one-stop exchange for both traditional and crypto contracts. And so here at EMX, we're building a bridge between the cryptocurrency world and the traditional capital markets. And we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create this infrastructure, to build this exchange, and allow people to trade global assets without the need for US dollars or for fiat. So I co-founded the company with my college roommate, Craig. We both went to Carnegie Mellon, both studied computer science. Afterwards, I went to Citigroup, where I was a trader, and then joined Graham Capital, where I managed a $1 billion futures and options book with another portfolio manager. Craig he's our CTO. He was a developer at Microsoft initially, and then joined AQR, a $200 billion hedge fund in Connecticut, as their lead developer. Jerry is our COO. He's run and operated and launched traditional futures exchanges at NYMEX, at the CME, at the Dubai Mercantile Exchange. So we also have a team of 12 highly professional individuals building this exchange, and just like to give you a preview of what we built over the last year. We have some notable advisors, Simon from Hash. Derivatives markets are like in the traditional world. The traditional derivatives probably outsize spot markets 10 to 20x. So that means, for every dollar traded in spot, $10 or $20 are traded in derivatives. But we don't see that in crypto today. Crypto is dominated by spot markets, but we think in the next 1 to 2 years, the ratio will. So this is a chart of BitMEX volumes over the last 4 quarters. And despite the bear market, BitMEX, the largest Bitcoin futures exchange in the world, has seen increasing volumes every single quarter the last year. And this is the inherent beauty of derivatives. It doesn't matter if markets are going up or down. People can profit from trading futures. You can short in a bear market and make money. You can go long in a bull market and make money. So the direction of markets doesn't really affect derivatives markets. And with that, I'd like to show you a demo of our exchange. All right, so this is the futures exchange we've spent the last year building. It's currently in beta mode right now, and we encourage everyone to sign up at emx.com to test out the beta. We're going to be launching a trading competition in the next couple of weeks, and the exchange will go live in first quarter next year. So what we allow you to do here at EMX is to trade Bitcoin futures, ETH futures. You can also trade S&P contracts. Those are the 3 we have right now, but we'll launch more and more crypto contracts and traditional contracts in the next coming weeks. So here you can submit orders, just like any other exchange. You can buy it at market, gets submitted to the order book, gets added to your positions. You can submit orders directly on the order book itself. So if you like to submit a limit order, you can submit a limit order there, and it'll show up in your order tab. You can customize it however you like. So here we have customizable modules. You can cancel orders. But what I wanted to show you is the vision of being able to trade your entire portfolio all on one platform. So we have S&P futures right here. We have Ethereum futures. And the traditional contracts will be all listed on EMX. So the goal is people can deposit Bitcoin or ETH or EMX token as collateral, and then get exposure to anything and everything that you can think of. So that's the vision of EMX. There's a lot in store. I encourage you to sign up on emx.com. And my time's up, so I'd like to wrap it up. Woo!
So any questions for Jim from EMX? In that case, we will pass to the panel discussion.
Yes, so we get the panelists up here.
Just call it.
Yeah.
It leads on to the people talking.
So guys, please remind the people at the back and around the bar that if you're talking to people around, you can't actually hear the panelists. And this is the reason we need to know, so we'd love to be able to hear what they have to say. So for the next section, we will be having a brief, not very brief, we will be having our panel introductions. We want to keep them very brief, maybe 1 minute maximum. Our job as moderators is actually to cut you guys off, because we found in the past people just talk for way too long. So, and leading into that, we'll have questions from the audience. Okay, so we start with our introduction.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nye, and I pretty much talk about cryptocurrency online to a large audience of people. So I just create content, I narrate, things like that.
I'm Chris Chen, and I'm co-founder of Chen Founder. It's a token fund based in Shanghai. So we invest in a lot of token projects and also the equity part. During last year, we built up our ecosystem in media company and exchanges. That's pretty much what we do. Welcome everybody tonight.
My name is Dean, and I'm the co-founder
co-founder for a project called Oath Protocol. And what we do is kind of special. We're not like a public chain or devs, but what we do is for blockchain governance. So today's topic is for regulations. So I think it's kind of good for my position to talk about it. So thanks for having me here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks guys. Just as introduction, so this is Joe and I'm Anand. But we'll get right into it. Can I just say one thing? The guys who are standing up at the back, guys at the back, if there are some spare seats, feel free to take them because, like Joe said, when it gets a bit crowded around the back, then we can hear the noise from back up here. So once you've had a drink, if you can just take a seat, that'd be great. But just to kick things off, and it was touched briefly in one of the presentations. Do you believe that any of the projects that have had, financial backing or even approval on more of a public level from either a government-backed entity or a regulatory body, do you feel these projects stand a distinct advantage over their competitors?
In the long term, yeah, no question. It shows that the government's supporting them and they have a higher possibility of succeeding in the long term. So that's for you guys.
So I'll speak from an exchange perspective. Exchanges will be regulated at some point. There's just too much volume and too much money going through the system that the exchanges are the gatekeeper and the governments will regulate. But I think that's a good thing. It'll bring more and more traditional institutions on board and bring more liquidity to the exchanges. So I think the exchanges who get the licenses will have a better shot at attracting those institutions.
All right. So this is a pretty interesting question. To Meetup because we are fortunate enough to be invested by Shanghai, where it's a Singapore government-owned investment firm. So to start, I think Meetup has the privileges against other projects, to be honest, where we raise funds easier. When it comes to hospitals, we are easier. But in the long-term run, I think I agree with the peers that there are still the technologies we have, the operation teams we have, to make us different from other projects.
I think for that question, I think the answer is yes. So for project have the support from the government. So first of all, you will have you will win a lot of more credibility. For example, like the NEO project, I think at least a lot of people believe it has support from Chinese government. I think that's part of the reason it gained so much popularity last year. Yeah. And also second, last year in the Bora, a lot of projects. Ordinary people cannot distinguish which one is good. So if they expect that by the government, attract more attention. Yeah. So that's translating into more chance of success.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. I think it's definitely a yes. And my is simple because blockchain is still a relatively new industry, and especially like when something is new, like not every new users believe that, not like us, right? Everybody here is probably believing in blockchain, but still all people outside, they are not into that yet. But with government authentication and authorities, it's easier to send them, to educate them, and let them know it's trustable. So I think it's not just for projects, but with more government involved, supports the projects, it helps the industry. I think that's more important.
Great. I have a question about speed. So we all know this industry moves really, really fast. Should projects be waiting for the government to regulate, or should projects be pushing forward without regulation? And what does that mean?
So what we're doing at EMX, we're actually doing two paths. One is operating the exchange outside the US where we're based while we apply for our CFTC license within the US. So we'll operate and gain traction, get users, improve the technology, at the same time look for our registration with the CFTC. So I think you can do both. I don't think you need to wait. I think waiting is, it's a barrier to progress. It's a barrier to getting traction and market fit. So
I have nothing.
Yeah, I think definitely project should not wait for the regulation come in place, because facing the uncertainty is part of the game in this industry, I believe. Like for example, especially in China, like last year, a lot of the exchange, they continue their operation overseas, so they continue to thrive. So if you, and also like nowadays, we're still facing a lot of problems, like the STOs being on the hot topic. I believe project who can manage the risk very well and do the policy arbitrage worldwide will gain advantage in this space.
Yes, I think projects shouldn't wait, but at the same time, don't do anything the Constitution says you couldn't. So maybe like for my side and for our project, we are doing something new, but at the same time, it's not like something totally innovative or totally revolutionary change the industry. So I think we can walk in the gray area, which is not being banned or being totally like stopped by the government. But at the same time, we should try to prove that concept. But at the same time, convincing that's actually like useful for not just like a certain amount of people, but for the entire society. So I think at that time, we can see from the history, not only just blockchain for traditional internet as well. So pretty much all the new green projects, they start from the green area, right? Even Airbnb, they start like they are still fighting with the government. But I think that doesn't mean they are not successful. That's also they are pushing the limit. They are pushing those government guys or those people in the government to set up the rules to set up the bars even higher. So I think that's the most important.
Great, some good concise answers, and good to see we have some agreement on the importance of support from the government. Before we carry on from our side, are there any burning questions from anyone in the audience that they'd like to put forward, either in general or to anyone in specific? If you could raise your hand. Yeah.
Do you need a microphone?
Thank you for the presentation. Actually, I have two questions. One is more general, and the other is more specific. The general is I saw a lot of founders here. So, could you share with us the fundraising structure? Payment company, or you normally set an SPV in Silicon Valley. So the fundraising structure.
We would rather keep it on topic of regulation and governance and bringing back cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I saw the first founder, Dr. Zhang. Yeah, you mentioned actually maybe your company is registered in Singapore. Do you need specific license or regulation for the healthcare industry? And no, you don't need. Also, the second question is the same for the stock exchange. I know it's blocked in China, so the law is prohibited in this area. So even in the US, if your company is registered in the US, do you need to deal with SEC, Securities Exchange Commission? That's my two questions.
All right. For the first question, maybe I can answer you. We are Singapore-based company, so we don't have any other companies registered outside Singapore yet. And for the second question, to operate in Singapore, the second question for you is, do we need special license or something, right? No, it's an own company. Now, for your last question, is to operate in China and all that. So what we do is that we do joint ventures with some other companies in China. So they are our representative to talk to the hospitals and all of this, and that's our strategy. Have I answered your question? Thank
the question, Dr. Zhang. So for the method Chan you introduced, first question is why we need to use blockchain to resolve the problem. It means to protect the privacy, to share the medical information. We can use the existing technology. Why it is necessary to use blockchain? And the second question is, if the doctors made a wrong input for the data, how to resolve the problem? For example, he know I am my gender is male, but he the wrong information as a female, and they got one confirmation, two confirmation, some confirmation. How to avoid the problem? How to change? How to correct the mistake? And the third question is, if there is two doctors get two different results for the
Let's be specific.
Exactly so specific. Okay, so if there's two persons inputted two different results on blockchain or broadcast, which one should be trusted? If two different persons have two inputs for the sorry, my English not good, for the 诊断结果, they have different opinion for the user have, and they input a different result into blockchain. Which one should be trusted?
All right. I would like to first combine your second question and last question. Basically, you're talking about the discrepancy about the data. Means that A says X and B says Y, right? How do we resolve such conflicts? So our strategy is pretty simple. So if we have our demo all this in our demo and all this, what we have is every data created by the doctors and all that, it needs recognition on the patients. So we are rolling out the patient's mobile app and all this. So every data created, it needs recognized by the patient, says that hey, this is my data. If the patient rejects the data creation, then that's a separate story. So all the data is recognized by the patient. Now, then back to the first question we have is that why blockchain is needed. Let's just to be honest. In the sense of blockchain, we are not using blockchain to store the data. We are using blockchain to track and trace the consents given by different patients. Now, put it this way. The difficulty is that when patients give consent to the data request, we are talking about shared data and all that. How do we know that patients give the data to that requester? Now, if this information is kept in one centralized system, then the patient won't trust it. So in the hyperledger itself, it tracks the tag of that data identifier and also tracks the consents given by the patients where who has access to my data and who I open access to the data requesters. So yeah, that's the role in our Meetup of the blockchain.
Great, thanks. All right, I have a question for Nye. So as blockchain is universal, why do we still depend on governments to regulate, and what are the alternatives?
Well, we require governments to regulate because that's the structure that we've created for our human existence. It's not something that we can avoid. I think we've tried to avoid it. We've seen what's happened when we try to avoid it is the fact that we require other forms of regulation, and we currently don't have any structures for those. So other solutions, self-regulation. And we've seen pretty much over the last year, 12 months, maybe 15 months, that self-regulation doesn't work when greed is involved. Right? So we've seen this whole ICO phase. Everybody knew the ICO phase was bullshit. Everybody knew that most of these ICOs that were raising money in between November and February were going to die, but people kept throwing their money at them. Everyone kept investing in them because you could walk away the next week with 3 to 5x your money. So greed got involved and it killed all hopes of self-regulation. So that's pretty much why we need government regulation, and it is going to be required, and to what degree is determined by what level we choose to self-regulate the industry.
Excellent, thanks. And a follow-up to that actually, and I'll throw it out to the whole panel. We good? More, I don't want to say criminal, but illicit activities when it comes to money laundering, tax evasion, these sort of things are still a bit of a troubling aspect when it comes to the whole technology. And you have some bodies like the SEC and other law enforcement that are looking into this and looking to take strides to find a way to keep benefits of blockchain, but then also, in the case of exchanges, sometimes some of the details of the clients or their IP addresses to try and crack down on this. More rapidly, do you feel that enough is being done by the crypto community itself to help these bodies in order to target these in a way to keep the benefits of decentralization and the data confidentiality, but also help to stop these issues that arise from it? Or do you still feel that projects are very much independent and just self-caring?
I think one of the problems is there's no real clarity right now with some of the regulation. So with taxes or with token sales or other sort of restrictions, the government is unsure as to how to properly enforce the regulation or how to properly give guidance. So it's really hard to help the government when there's moving goalposts with regulation. And I think if they're very clear and they make regulation fair and reasonable, then institutions will find a way to help out everyone, because that's what makes crypto legitimate, and that's what brings more and more people into the ecosystem. So if the governments would help us and help the ecosystem of the crypto community define what the regulation should be, that would be a good first step.
Yeah, I think that question is hard to answer because there's no clear line for the government. If they, let's say, let's not use blockchain, let's use something we are so familiar in our real life. Some country has so many surveillance cameras, CCTV on the street. So they are saying, oh, we are helping to catch thieves, catch robberies, we are protecting our citizens, we are providing safety. But at the same time, they are like tracking people, they are watching people, so you don't have privacy. So based on the history of all the government, let's say like reasonable government, they usually like put those lines very blurred. So on the side they are protecting you, but at the same time they are like kind of do something behind your scenes, behind your back. So that's why it's for blockchain project. I don't want to say like we do want to run all independent. We definitely want the recognitions. We definitely want to be understood by the government, and we want to provide as much as possible to help the industry, help the society. But at the same time, it's very, very hard for us, and especially like at this moment, for projects, especially like what we do, like we are kind of helpless. Like with the stress, with the force from the government, there's no space for us to negotiate. But behind it, we are very scared about whatever they do something behind our back, but use our technology or use our data. So that's why we feel like this is not something we can answer. But I mean, it will be a huge discussion. But according to the history, it never happened. So it's always gonna be influenced or emphasized. I mean, affected by the government. So we can only do as much as we can, but hoping the entire like decentralization would like bring more understanding, more trust from the users, from the real people. And once they start supporting it, hopefully they can actually like go back to influence the government. I mean, reasonable government. So that's what I thought.
I think like definitely we need to sort out some degree of compliance with the government, because that dictates the size or ecosystem of blockchain industry. Because in blockchain, I trust the industry gonna live for a long time and be successful in future. But the government really have the power to put the industry back to like down 80%. So the whole industry should try to avoid that. That's the first thing. And if we're talking about talk with government lobby, we really need to think about which government we'll talk about. So like last month I was in Berlin. So I heard from the local, the German blockchain industry, some project they form a foundation in Germany. They pay tax properly. So worldwide, regarding policy is really different from country by country. Yeah, like talking about China, so like we're really in a very different political system historically. So my best hope is US or like Europe. They have set up a very good model so that can influence China, so we can follow suit. And I also see that thing happen previously before, like in the past 30 years in many industries. So basically, China want economic prosperity, and they do, and also the government do see the technology benefit. So that's my biggest hope.
Thank you. As an inspiration of mine once said, with great power comes great responsibility. And for those who don't know, that's Spider-Man, so shout out to Spider-Man. Okay, so back to the audience. If anyone has a question, and if you can, keep it as closely related to the topic, to government and regulations. And again, specific questions for the project, you can speak to them afterwards, but to keep it quite general, does anyone have anything?
Sorry. What do you think about central bank coins? I mean, it's kind of the big new now. I'm from Switzerland, like, it's getting bigger and bigger. I know China is speaking about it, and it's really like a new trend. But how do you see it? It's really a new world coming.
And China.
Yeah, just that it's really big in China too.
You mean like stable coins?
I don't know, like central bank back coins.
Right, this is a sensitive topic. So I would say if the crypto RMB really go online, like into the daily life, so I will divide my own fund. So you're trying to think about like intention of the implementation of the crypto RMB. So I guess it's more for tracking money flow and tax evasion purpose. So I get into space since 2013. So like as I said, in blockchain I trust. I truly like the decentralization, anonymous. So I still gonna pick a lot of money like pure crypto, like BTC, like Bitcoin stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I leave the.
Does anyone want to touch this subject? Great. So the question was, what does government regulation mean for privacy tokens or privacy-related projects? Should investors even bother to invest? I mean, it doesn't have to be related to your project, right? What does government regulation do to privacy coins or projects that are like based around the idea of privacy?
I think, I don't know, I guess Chinese government, they didn't have deep analysis of technology behind the Zcash, Monero, Dash. That's what I believe. But they do want to know more privacy. That's what I see from recent every policy. I mean, to me, that's a different business line to me.
I mean, at least like I'll just speak from like the U.S. perspective. Like the U.S. is still very far away from even understanding what a privacy coin is. You know, they're still trying to figure out what Bitcoin is and how to tax it. So I still think we have time before like that's really clear, at least from the U.S. perspective. So I really have no idea.
But do you not think the existence of privacy coins completely underlines any legitimacy cryptocurrencies have for existing in a world with regulations? Because governments will never be able to accept something they can't see, can't track.
Yeah, based on my understanding, like regulation comes from different ways. For instance, like what you said, you understand the privacies and get into the privacy areas. But I think right now what they supposed to do or what they should do is like first regulate all the projects about their money raising quality or the control of the money. Instead of like going, that's the second layer, getting understand the technology and understand how to manipulate those technology. I think that's second layer. The first layer is like make a healthier industry, and for investors maybe like you can actually not asking the question, should I invest like privacy token? You should probably ask, should I invest in any of the tokens? So with their first layer of regulations, you can be safer or be like more confident to invest in whichever project you believe into, because they will be more transparent about the money flow, about like what they do, and all sorts of things. I think for security, like STO, everybody is talking about recently. I think that's something like what I mentioned, like the first layer of regulations. If that went well, let's worry about the second tier. The second tier is hard to say because they always, even you are not agreeing, or even the project doesn't want to cooperate. You know, for FBI, for CIA, they always find their own ways. So it's hard to say. I always say still do investments because it's like the two parties fighting like a hacker with the security. They're always fighting together. But that doesn't mean those like privacy tokens cannot be success. If they actually win, in most cases, people like those technology guys, they always win. So I would say, even for myself, I would still be investing.
But so real talk, we're saying privacy coins, the only purpose is money laundering.
Definitely not agree.
Okay, what are the other purposes?
No, it's like if we're talking about the government, like I said, you should specifically government. For example, in Venezuela, right? What I heard is a Dash is very popular. Is that a particular bag? I think every token designed serve for a certain purpose. Government, we cannot judge them like a bad or good. So they have their legitimate.
So what's the purpose? What was the purpose other than money laundering or privacy coin?
So before crypto, money laundering have been existed for several centuries, right? So mostly they use US dollar, I believe. So what do you do with US dollar then? And cash is a true anonymous.
All right, do we have any more questions from our audience? We can keep on track with this one, or do we have any questions? Didn't we have some burning questions? Everyone's still scared. Okay.
I have a question.
Go.
You guys are also looking at regulation, and you are in favor of your individual projects. What are your concerns with the increased regulation and creativity and ingenuity in the blockchain space that you do? It seems to me like that could hamper that a little bit. You guys all seem in favor. Can you all speak about that a little bit? I agree with it.
So what we were talking about is narrowing the economic moat between different projects. People can just steal your technology potentially.
I actually agree with you. So with more and more regulations, you will turn down the hype for the new projects, of course. But think about this way. So for traditional internet startups, I started from backgrounds which I started my own company back in Silicon Valley. So there's a lot of regulations for traditional internet as well, but it never turned down people's new ideas, hype or whatever. It's actually creating, for me personally, why I think some regulations, some healthy regulations is important. It's actually creating a healthier industry, a healthier environment for people to trust those new projects. For instance, if I tell you, hey man, I started my own project in blockchain at this moment, you probably think, yeah, definitely a scammy project. Even you probably that's by default people start thinking, because there's so many bad projects involved, simply because there's no regulation at all before. Last year, the year before last year, there's no regulation, no anything. So there's a lot of scammy project, let's say no very a true project. They get involved and they break the trust, and then the environment goes down, and even for the good projects, they cannot raise money, they cannot win the trust. So I think with healthier regulations, we can kick those guys out and preventing them from joining. And of course, like they're always joining, but lower the numbers, lower the ratios. So creating some healthier environment, healthier space for those projects who actually wants to do something, wants to do some legit stuff, and wants to help the industry to go up. And I was chatting with another friend. I was saying, like, imagine like at this moment, with no regulations, more scammy project join and bring entire trust. Still, you guys are still here. That means you still trust in the industry. And one day, none of you guys still trust it. Like I feel like all the projects are scammy. And then the industry, even the industry is like has some potential in the future. There's no chance for the industry at all. That's why I feel like some regulation, like I always mention, like some healthy regulation, not like some government. So it's like helping the environment. Of course, like it will be hype, like go down a little bit, but once everybody is comfortable with the regulation, or once the regulation is complete, the hype will go back. It's like traditional startups.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think regulation is vital for the industry because we are talking about how much size we can grow. With unregularized condition, we're gonna hit the ceiling pretty soon. That's one. And the second, if we go on the street, ordinary Joe, most of them, they don't believe in blockchain. They don't trust the project. If the proper, healthy regulation in place, we can create the market or the industry much bigger. Yeah. One more thing, like back to the privacy thing, like one good example I think of, like if you ever heard of WikiLeaks, like they basically all the government, so they get shut down everywhere. So they receive donation in coin and Litecoin before, but now the government, they can track a lot of transaction or color. So if you use a Monero or Dash, so we can keep some vital element in society alive. That's a healthy use case for like privacy coins.
Hello. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Take our project for example. We're not dealing with crypto regulations only. We deal with healthcare, so there are a lot of regulations ongoing. Now, our approach to these regulations basically is case by case. We see what kind of regulation. Hello? Yeah, whether it's temporary or is it, whether it's temporary or is it against the principle of the government. Now, for those temporary regulations, we will just hand them and wait and see how we can do it. For those against principles regulations, our approach is that either we can find ways to bypass that, in the sense that we find alternative solutions to achieve what we wanted to achieve, and for some other regulations, there's no way for we to handle it. Then that's it. I mean, we don't deal with it.
So I just want to add, regulations all came because of bad actors, and I can speak from the exchange space. And people were manipulating stocks, 100 years ago, right? And that's why we have regulators monitoring exchanges and making sure there's no, wash trades or other bad behavior. And I think, the crypto, at least the crypto exchange that I've seen, they don't have the same sort of robust self-governance, and that's why you see reports of, a lot of wash trading or unfair practices going on. And I took a survey. There's probably 20 or 30 traders out there. No one wants to trade on an unfair exchange, right? So sometimes good and fair regulation just makes markets more transparent, makes the playing field more fair and more friendly to more people. So I think that's what'll get more people into the system, into the ecosystem, and everything has to be in balance. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think like my answer just goes back to the points that I was making earlier. If we don't want government regulation, we need self-regulation. And right now, the only people that would self-regulate are the people really heavily day-to-day involved in the industry, and the large majority of those are traders, and the large majority of traders, probably all traders, are driven by greed. So it leaves a huge problem, a huge gap, because for that exact reason. So.
All right, great. I think we have time for one more quick question. If anyone has a question, ready to ask. If not, yes.
If regulation really does happen, and that basically makes the market that much bigger, generally what happens is that the spread becomes that much smaller. So we can push a lot of people away from take something in my life. But now it will be like, okay, there is a 0.0001 spread, and unless you have a $10 million fund that you are operating on the FX market, you don't take $500. So do you think that regulation is going to push out retail people from crypto?
I have no idea. I think it probably will push out the people who already made tons of money, and don't want to, like a lot of traders that I know specifically, they have fun trading in markets that are extremely volatile and up and down all the time. So yeah, those people might leave, but rumor has it it'll make people who are more institutionally based and who are more comfortable trading traditional markets, they'll feel more comfortable in crypto. It's what people say, at least. Who knows if that's true or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I think the number of retail traders out there, it's not that many in proportion to the total population of FX traders and stock traders, and so you see regulation in those markets, and the number of retail traders are magnitude larger than crypto retail traders. So I think the regulation won't prevent retail traders from getting
pretty short. For me, I feel that there are still a lot of chances for retail traders in this space for them to come in. And if there is a regulation on that, those people will just come in, and the market will be bigger. And in fact, that's not a big thing, for the whole space. If you look around, in this hall, there are so many of us that have never done any trading in crypto and all that. I believe that if there is a regulation and they will feel that the assets will be secure and regularized, why not they trade it in this space or in the traditional space?
Yeah, I think at least in China, the regulation drive away some trading like this. Because I constantly get pressure from friends how to buy Bitcoin. Simply, this is adding a layer of friction. Yeah, so yeah.
For me, I think with, I keep saying, with healthy regulations, even profits is low. Imagine you probably in Shanghai, you heard about the stock market in China. Even with that, everybody losing money, but still even my personal experience, my auntie, my uncle, everybody they buy some of those stocks. And because there's no way for them to invest with small money. With small money, probably you cannot buy a house, you cannot buy apartments, and what else you can do? With crypto, if it's regulated, if it's finally open to public, even with just a little bit profits, people will join. Because there's no other way. In most countries, there's no other way for them to get involved in a healthy investment industry or something like that. And they can put down $20 down and probably get something back. There's no barrier, no entry point. I think that's something crypto exchange market is good for.
Okay, great. Thank you guys very much. I just want to say that when we reach out to these guys, they set aside a lot of time to come down here. They're obviously very expert in their field and very busy men. So I just want you guys to show your appreciation for all their opinions, all their time today. Bitcoin and blockchain first came about, it was all about beating the government, beating regulation, but I think as the projects that are legitimate have stuck around, there's this general consensus agreement that it's not about beating the government's regulation, but it's about doing the right thing and serving the right purpose. So yeah, it's great to see. And just to add that, while we're talking about regulations, crypto monies is different because we're self-regulating, which basically means that all of you and your opinions and your thoughts will play into how the sessions are run. So if there's stuff you particularly like or don't like, then that's what the groups are there for. Not just for us to advertise the events, but for you guys to say, oh, how about you guys do this? This is my opinion on that. Maybe we want to talk about that. So yeah, please get involved with your comments, even if it's just to say, oh, Michael, I don't like his new jeans, they're too small, because they're really too small. I mean, it's very important for us to talk about these things. And the more consensus we have, the sooner he'll get trousers that actually fit him. So please do give your opinion on that. Anyway, that's enough from me and us. Thank you guys again, and we will now move on to the next part of our session, which is our keynote speaker. Would you like to introduce? Michael will introduce our keynote speaker. Thanks again.
So yes, thank you Anand for the nice introduction. Before you go, you should definitely check Anand's jacket, because he has a hole in his jacket. That's really ridiculous and embarrassing. Anyway, before I want to introduce the last and main for one of you main act for tonight, I want to tell you that we actually have more than 500 people on the live stream watching this here right now, and with more than 150 people in this room, because 150 is the amount of chairs we have, and I see a lot of people standing. So please give a round of applause for this event tonight, please. Thank you. Because truly, I believe, just imagine, do we have any event or any kind of meetup where people come today talking about how the internet works, or talk about the technology of the internet, or all these things? We don't have that anymore. With blockchain, we're talking about something that might be revolutionary and change the world for the next 20 years. Can we change the batteries? Or is that more better? Sorry? Yes. So, in the back, please, if you mind, just come a bit closer and don't talk too much, so it's a bit noisy and fun. Yes, these kinds of events we won't have 10, 20 years from now, because blockchain will just be there, we'll just use it without even noticing it. And so I believe we're still pretty early, and now I want to introduce you to someone who is in the space since 2011, so that's like 8 years ago. And before I want to introduce him to the stage, I want to give a big shout out to Sky Palace, to Xiaopei, who is the owner and incubator of Xiaopei, to this beautiful place. Let's give a hand of applause for them for giving us this event space for free. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So maybe if you turn around, there's a couple of guys from the team. I see Anken, and there are two other guys. If you have inquiries to host events in the future, feel free to contact them. But that's enough now. So we want to welcome Bobby Lee here now on the stage, who will talk about blockchain and Bitcoin and everything related to it. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you, Michael. Hello. There's one chair here. I feel like this is stand-up comedy. How's everyone doing? You guys all want to stand up and stretch a little bit? Yeah! Alright, let's all stand up. Stretch it up. Stand up, raise your hands. Raise your hands if you have crypto. Wow, okay, a lot of people here. Alright, have a seat, have a seat. But seriously, do all of you have crypto? Have Bitcoin? Ethereum? Litecoin? No Litecoin. Good. My name is not Charlie. So I want to make this session interactive by At the same time, I did not prepare slides, so these are not my slides.
500?
I realized I've been giving too many talks with slides, and I want to change it up a little bit. Make it interactive and bring you some new material that I'm developing about blockchain, Bitcoin, crypto, and so on. Would you like that? Should I talk about Bitcoin or should I talk about blockchain? Who thinks I should talk about Bitcoin? Who thinks I should talk about blockchain? Who wants me to talk about blockchain? Okay, a little bit even. So unfortunately, I cannot talk about Bitcoin because we're in China. This is actually my first public sort of session in China for a long, long time. As you know, we had shut down our exchange over a year ago. So it marks the almost 1 year, or a little over 1 year anniversary after closing down BTC China. That was sad last year. Ran probably the world's longest running Bitcoin exchange for many years. But so I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin. As someone said, it's sensitive information. But we can talk about blockchain. How's that? Okay, so I want to challenge, this session might challenge your views about blockchain, okay? I want to ask some questions, pose some interesting questions for you to think about. Maybe you'll take something away and learn something new, or maybe you won't. Maybe you ask some good questions, maybe I can learn something new. But the idea is to ask some real hard questions about blockchain, how it is, what it's used for, application, and so on. So that's a topic of my conversation. But as we start, let's talk about. So let's have some quiet first. I want to make sure people get a chance to listen. Okay, if your neighbors are speaking, feel free to go shh. Okay. And then I think there's over 500 people watching live streaming online. That's great. Hi to the people online watching live. And some people might watch this tape delay on YouTube or Yoku or something. All right, so I asked, how many of you have crypto? Let's do that again. Hand participate. How many have crypto? That's not as many as I would have thought. So people who don't raise your hand, you don't own any crypto? That is quite something. Okay, how many of you have invested in a blockchain project? Be honest here. ICO, STO, invested, pre-sale, public sale. That's it? I don't believe. I think you guys are lying. Come on, let's see that again. How many of you have invested in a blockchain project? Tokens, crowd sale. That's it? Okay, how many of you have been involved or are currently involved with a blockchain project? Oh, good, good. And how many of you are founders of blockchain projects? Founders, okay, a lot of founders here, okay, great. So let's get started. So my conversation about blockchain is this, okay? So what is so I'm going to be interactive and really ask questions. That's why I got a seat here. So what is the ultimate, what is the purpose for blockchain technologies? Anyone know? One word, 2 words? What is it for? Just yell it out.
It's a database.
It's a database. What is the purpose for blockchain technologies? What else? Decentralization. So how is it new or different than prior technologies and solutions? That's a fundamental thing we're going to talk about. How is blockchain new or different than prior technologies? Is it real innovation? What are the buzzwords? So what are the buzzwords? We have decentralization. What does decentralization mean? It means that there's no central authority. Right? The idea is that it's all out there. But what else? What are the buzzwords for blockchain? Privacy. What does that mean? It means that you can keep information private. No one needs to know your business. Right? What else? What are the other buzzwords? Transparency. So that's the idea that people can understand what's going on without a lot of mumbo jumbo. So there's good transparency into it. What else? Safety. Safety, security, safety, so you can maybe using encryption, private keys to hold on to your information or assets. What else? Immutability. Immutability, the idea that information cannot be changed after it's been put on the blockchain. What else? Censorship resistant, the idea that people can put information on there without being censored. Right? What else? Anything else? Moon? Moon! To moon. Crypto moon days. So, you know what? Crypto price is going up, mooning, right? Going to the moon. Okay, what else? What are the buzzwords with blockchain? Point is, no single point of failure, right? Resiliency, yes. So some of the words are public ledger, the idea that the ledger is open and public, consensus driven. A lot of people coming together for consensus. Decentralized, we talk about permissionless, right? The idea that you don't need permission to participate. Everyone can participate if they want to. Independently and universally verifiable. So information in there being verifiable by everyone else. How about removing trust? Removing trust. Is that important? The idea that you don't need to trust a central authority. How about a finality of data, finality of transaction? The notion that there's no chargeback, no reversal. And finally, no recourse, similar to that, no recourse, okay? I still hear a lot of chit chat. Where is that going on? Are you guys chatting about blockchain? Hey, shh. Okay, so if you want to chat, you're welcome to go outside, or you're welcome to come on stage and I'll step down. Okay, so these are the buzzwords of blockchain, and essentially, for anything that doesn't need these qualities that we talked about, then it probably does not need blockchain, right? If you don't need all of what we just said, then you probably don't need blockchain. So that's the sort of concept I want to bring about to all of you. So let's talk about removing trust first. The idea with information stored in the blockchain is that you can take it at face value and not have to trust a single specific party. Would you agree with that? Yes? Raise your hands, yes, you agree? Yeah? If you're going to trust the single party, why put it in the blockchain, right? So wouldn't it be great to have reliable information and not have to trust the messenger? Wouldn't that be great? And that's essentially what Bitcoin blockchain does. It solves what they call the Byzantine generals problem, which is essentially you can now have proof that the funds have arrived into an account without trusting the messenger, because there is not one single messenger, but the public blockchain everywhere has information, okay? So now let's talk about information reliability. What does that mean? The notion that can information be reliable? So blockchain is public and widely replicated, decentralized, distributed, all that, and it's immutable. So is there information reliability in blockchain? Yes? Do you want that? Do we want information reliability? I would say yes. So with blockchain, there's little to no risk of the information being wrong, because it's replicated, it's verified, it's publicly verifiable, a lot of miners, not everyone's checking it, proof of work, proof of stake, and so on. Essentially, there's no risk, or very little risk, of the information being later edited, replaced, or deleted. The information in blockchain is inherently reliable and stable. Do you guys want that?
No.
No?
Yes.
It depends. I like that. That's like the business school answer. It depends. Okay, so what I've said is these are my thoughts, right? I think that for sure we want to remove trust with the blockchain. And for sure we want information to be reliable. But after thinking about it more, I've been thinking, what applications can truly benefit from blockchain technologies? More accurately, what kinds of information can you put into blockchain? So think about that, okay? So as we talk tonight, I'm on stage, obviously, I'm speaking, but I want you to think about and follow my conversation. What kind of information can you put into blockchain? Is it structured data? Is it unstructured data? Is it free form? Is it poetry? Is it mathematical equations? What's the criteria of what information you can put into blockchain? Are there any limitations or preferences? What information can and should be in the blockchain? And the corollary is what information is not suitable and cannot be put in the blockchain. Have you guys thought about that? Don't just assume everything can be put in the blockchain, because if you assume that, you might make a mistake. Right? And I think most people, myself included, assume that, oh, the blockchain can solve the world hunger. It can solve all problems in the world. We just apply blockchain to every problem we have, and then it'll magically make it better. And I had that perspective in 2017. As recently as 18 months ago, I had that perspective. And why did I have the perspective? Because I was trying to fundraise for my company, BTCC, and I was trying to in Chinese, we call 忽悠 all the investors. Okay, 忽悠 investors means to try to get money from investors and crypto. So with that mindset, I was thinking, oh, blockchain can solve world hunger. Just invest in us. We can, BTCC was blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies. Yeah, that was my 忽悠 phrase. So the nature of information, let's think about that, okay? What is the nature of information? Is information inherently objective? So I'm going to ask a tough question. So think about, there's a word objective. Objective means information, the opposite of objective is subjective. Subjective would be like opinion, something I say. Is my jacket, what color is my jacket? Red, I like that. What else? What color is my jacket? Any other answers? Black? What? White? Gray? Dark gray? Silver? Does it have stripe? So the point is that, is information inherently objective or is it inherently subjective? Is it all in the eye of the beholder? Right? Is there such thing as a universal truth? Am I wearing a black jacket? How many of you think I'm wearing a black jacket? How many of you think I'm not wearing a black jacket? Right? See, apparently people are raising hands. Some people might raise a hand both. Right? But the point is, if you think hard about some things, there was an example, probably 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago on the internet, there's a meme. There was a woman's dress. Remember that? I saw it as white and gold. It was a white dress with gold lines. Some people saw like purple and black. Did you guys see that? Crazy. That was crazy. So it sort of goes to show that information is inherently subjective, and that it's hard to get everyone to agree on something. Our real world, our physical world, how do we perceive and describe our real world? The description and measurement, can it be objective? How tall am I? How tall do you think I am?
6 foot.
6 foot? No, not that tall. So I like to think that I'm 168 centimeters, 1 meter 68 centimeters, or 5 foot 6 inches. But apparently I've shrank a little over the years. But on my driver's license it still says 168. Or 5'6". But so even things like that, if you were to measure my height actually changes from the morning when I first wake up to the late at night, because the body sort of shrinks a little bit during the day. So a lot of things are hard to measure or come to a consensus, so to speak. So isn't all real world information subjective, right? Can subjective information be placed in the blockchain? I'll give you an example. So aside from the color of the dress, that famous dress on the internet, the blue and white, the white and gold versus the purple and black. There's also something very, very, in China, you know this. Many years ago, anyone from Beijing here? Anyone from Beijing? You lived in Beijing a few years ago? Yes? Yes, lived in Beijing. So you know that in Beijing there was a contention about what is air quality. The ppm in the air, as measured by the US consulate and as measured by the Chinese government. Did they come up with 2 different numbers? Who do you believe? Which one is the correct answer for the quality of the air in Beijing?
Chinese government.
Of course! Of course, Beijing is in China. Of course the Chinese government. Right? But some people don't believe that. So the point is that measurements in real life, you may think they're objective, but in the end, you rely on the person doing the measurement, you rely on the person announcing it, speaking it. Do you see my point? So many things in life are actually subjective, okay? So now we talk about centralized information. Most of the world actually operates with centralized information that is according to one source, and therefore by definition, they establish what is true. Okay, so any kind of centralized information would be anything that's stored in a database. Anything that's stored in a database. So databases are great solutions for storing, maintaining, and promoting centralized information. How many of you belong to airline miles? Airline frequent flyer miles, hotel reward points. So that information, your balance of how many miles you have, how many hotel reward points you have, that's centralized information that's stored by the hotel company or the airline company, and they store it in a database that's distributed around the world, and it's centralized. What they say is the final answer, how many miles you have. So databases are a great way to store and maintain decentralized information, okay? So have any of you, I'll give you an example, this is a real example. Have any of you purchased tickets, airline tickets on Expedia or Ctrip? Sometimes you get such a good price, discounted fare, that you could get on the plane, but they don't even give you the airline miles for that fare. Has it happened to you?
God, bitch.
Yeah? So this is what I'm saying. So normally when you buy an airline ticket, you fly and then they give you the reward miles, right? 5,000 miles, 2,000 miles, whatever. But some tickets are so cheap. They say you can fly this ticket, but you don't get the reward miles. Have you seen that? Or hotel points. Some hotel rooms are so cheap, you don't get points for it. Right? So you could be next to someone in the same plane, flying the same distance, 6,000 miles from here to San Francisco, yet he or she will get airline miles, but you won't. But it's the same flight. So who are you going to argue with? Well, you can't argue with anyone because the airline set the rules, and they say, sorry, we're not going to give you any miles for it. And that's what I mean by centralized information. Because with centralized information, there's only one party, okay? So why is this important? Because I have a question for you guys. In the end, if your blockchain, the ones that you are working on, the ones that you're investing in, the ones that you're using, if it's using centralized information, if it's storing centralized information, then it's not a blockchain. Or it doesn't need to be a blockchain. It should just not be publicly verifiable, such as my height, such as how many miles I flew, such as the color of that dress on the internet, or the color of my jacket. If the information cannot be publicly verifiable, then it cannot be in the blockchain. It should not be in the blockchain. You might as well just have a database. So that's my conclusion over the last 18 months journey in terms of thinking hard about the blockchain problem. So when teams tell you, we have blockchain, we will change the world, and the only value add they add is the word blockchain, then you really have to question yourself and question them. Are they using blockchain correctly? Does it need a blockchain? So let's come a little bit back to cryptocurrency. What's the first and single most successful use case of blockchain? Do you guys know?
ICO.
I see. I hope you don't mean that. Payments. It's actually payments. It's actually Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the king of blockchain. Bitcoin was the first application. In fact, the word blockchain was invented after Bitcoin. Okay, all the so-called chains before Bitcoin was not the true blockchain that we know today. So Bitcoin is the first blockchain. So cryptocurrency blockchain. What is blockchain? Why does blockchain work for cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin? Well, what does it store? Let's think about that. Okay? What does blockchain store for Bitcoin? So each transaction in Bitcoin blockchain, in a block, each Bitcoin's blockchain has many thousands of blocks. Each block has many thousands of transactions. Each transaction stores only a very few amount of information. It records a specific of the source account, meaning the Bitcoin address and the UTXO, which is the unspent transaction output. It specifies the destination. So you're paying from one account to another account. Think about you're pulling Bitcoin from account A to account B and C. Okay, so it specifies the destination account B and C, and it specifies the amount. So you have 10 Bitcoins to start with, you send 3 to account B, and you send 7 to account C. So all you need to check is that 7 plus 3 equals 10. Right? Is that publicly verifiable? Yes? Would most people agree? Would all of the miners agree that 7 plus 3 equals to 10? That's why Bitcoin blockchain works. Because there's no fuzzy things like whether it's black or purple or gold or white. There's no things like how high I measure you to take a tape or measurement stick. Okay? If 7 plus 3 is 10, then that's a valid transaction. If that private key, if the signature matches the private key, then that's valid. If the hash matches, then it's valid. That's why Bitcoin transactions are boiled down to be very, very simple. And in there, it's just publicly verifiable mathematical equations where anyone, without permission, you can be a Bitcoin miner. You can use a calculator, you can use a mobile phone, you can use a computer and become a miner. You could buy a S9 machine from Bitmain and be a miner. And you can verify that anywhere in the world. You can verify 7 plus 3 equals to 10. You can verify that in China. You can verify that in Africa, in America. You can speak English, you can speak Chinese, you can speak Swahili, and you can still prove to yourself that 7 plus 3 equals to 10. And that's why Bitcoin is very simple. But if your information in your blockchain cannot be publicly verifiable, if it only requires you to allow the information to be in there, you have a master key, where you don't allow anyone else to write information into the blockchain, then that's not a public blockchain. Right? If you're the only one who's allowed to input data into your blockchain, or even if the blockchain is your blockchain, that's a hint that it's not blockchain. It's your private database. By the way, nothing wrong with private databases. I love private databases. I use them all the time. All the e-commerce applications, all the website services, all the computing, they all have private databases. Even on my Apple Watch, there's a private database in there, storage. Right? So everything uses private databases, nothing wrong with that. But really a question about that. So let me continue, okay? I'll open up for questions. So blockchain applications now, let's get to the gut of this. What applications do you want to incorporate into blockchain? Is there truly decentralized and independently verifiable information that you want to place into blockchain? So, what information can you put into blockchain that is truly decentralized and publicly verifiable? That's my challenge to all of you, whether you're engineers, whether you're founders, whether you're investors, marketing people. If you want to get involved in the blockchain project, in the blockchain team, the blockchain industry, ask yourself this. What information are you storing inside the blockchain? Is it truly and publicly verifiable? If you have to have the master key, that's not blockchain. So, and then of course, or alternatively, are you only looking to use the tokens, the coins? Do you want to use blockchain issued coins and tokens? For what purpose? I know some projects create new coins and tokens as their sort of currency inside their ecosystem. My question is, do you need that? Can you use Bitcoin instead? Can you use Ethereum instead? Can you use US dollars? Why do you need to create a new token? Ask yourself that. Are you only doing it for fundraising needs? Are you using the word blockchain because it sounds cool? Because it's hip? Because you can raise $10 million, $50 million, $1 billion overnight by having a blockchain project, okay? I mean, it's for you to ask yourself these questions because I realize the answers for myself. So I'm at peace with myself. But if you guys haven't thought this through, tonight might be a good time to start thinking about this. Are you doing blockchain for the right reason? Okay, so before I go to Q&A, I want to show you this thing I have here. Actually, I'm going to show you this first. I'm going to show you, by the way, so how many of you work for BTCC or have worked for BTCC in the past? A lot of colleagues here. A lot of ex-colleagues here. Wow, awesome. Okay, good to see all of you.
Where's Eric?
Okay, so fun Shanghai, and I got a gift in the mail, and it was a mooncake coupon voucher from Max's. Maxim, who's had Maxim mooncake? Meixing. Good stuff, right? Really good mooncake. I used to buy these. This is excellent. I got this in my mail, Kuai as a gift from BTCC for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Thank you, BTCC. Now, the problem is I came back in October. So I came back on October 8th. I got this on October 8th. And guess what? On the back there, in very small print, it says the last day to redeem is September 26th. So unfortunately, despite how pretty and how tasty the image looks, I could not redeem it, and that's why I have this coupon. I thought about throwing it away, but I was like, oh, maybe I should use it as a prop for my next talk, as a real example. So this is a voucher. The point about this mooncake voucher is that compare and contrast this mooncake voucher with the actual box of Meixing ribbon. This is an actual box of mooncakes versus this is a voucher for a mooncake box. 2 months ago, did these have the same value? Probably. You could go to Shanghai, lose somewhere, and go exchange this for a box of mooncakes. But certainly today, on October 15th, do these two have the same value? No, because this is just paper. No one will give you mooncake for this. But if you have a box of mooncake, you have a box of mooncake. Okay? So what I tell people is, this is a very simple concept that many of you understand, but a few of you do not understand. There is a real-world difference, between a voucher and the actual mooncake box. This is a voucher. This is like a token. This represents something that someone else has to promise to give you fulfillment. This is the actual mooncake box. If you open it, there will be 4 mooncakes in it, and you can go eat it right away. The value of the mooncake does not depend on another company. Well, as long as the mooncake is still, not spoiled. Right? So that's why when people say Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, or let's just say Bitcoin, when Bitcoin is not backed by anything, that's a good thing. Because you can actually use it. The mooncake is not backed by anything, but this voucher is backed by Meixing, Maxim's group. Okay? It's a small concept, but I want you guys to think about this if you haven't already, okay? Tokens, same thing. For those of you who have tokens, who issue tokens, the real world tokens, I used to live in New Jersey, went to high school there, and went to New York City. I used to have these New York City subway tokens. I didn't bring them with me, but I have them. These are tokens where you can put in the New York City subway system and ride the subway. One token, one ride. But now, 20 years later, 30 years later, the token, I cannot use it anymore because in New York City subway, they changed the system. So the point is, every token depends on the issuer to acknowledge it, redeem it, and not cancel it or issue new ones. Okay? So it's important for all of us to understand utility tokens. This is essentially a utility token. It's just a paper version. Okay? So when I ask yourself, many of you are entrepreneurs, right? Many of us entrepreneurs here in this audience, yes? Yes, a lot of us either started a company or starting a new company, want to work at a startup. I ask yourself this. Don't ever get confused that the art, the success in building a startup is about how to make fancy tokens. Imagine someone telling you, I have an idea. I could build a business, the next great mooncake business, that could beat Maxim's, that could take over the world. I'll have colorful coupons, vouchers, with fluorescence and full color, 3D holograms. I'll even put it on the blockchain so people can redeem their mooncakes on the blockchain. That does not solve the problem. In the end, you're better off making a company, a mooncake company that has good mooncakes, that has tasty mooncakes, where real people want to buy the mooncakes. In the end, it's about the real stuff, the real products and services. It's not about the fundraising method. It's not about which blockchain or which blockchain technologies you use. It's not about who you have as advisors. It's not about the ticker symbol you choose for your token. It's not about what exchanges you list your tokens on first. It's about the products and services if you really want to change the world. Okay? Thank you very much. So, maybe some of that was very controversial. Any questions? Any questions for me? Okay, right there. And yeah, so we'll do this. Okay, we'll take questions. Either raise your hand or be the first to stand up. I'll take your questions. Okay, first one here, gentlemen. I talked a lot about publicly verified blockchain. Yeah. One question. Yes. What about oracles? Yes, oracles. So I have a, okay, so this is great. I skipped that section about oracles. Oracles and prediction markets. Should we continue to rely on central authorities for definitive truth? Let me talk about this and I'll answer your question. So the question is, should we to rely on central authorities for definitive truth of an outcome? Right? Should we do that? We don't have a choice. Or should we depend on oracles or prediction markets so we can have a sort of aggregate truth? So did it rain in Shanghai today? Did it rain? Well, depends on who you ask. Really depends on who you ask. Right? So how do you use oracles for that? So my short answer to your question is I've heard about this oracle technology, all that. I'm not sold on it. I'm quite pessimistic. I don't think oracles solve the problem. I don't think they solve the problem. I'll give you an example. Horse race. Who's ever seen a horse race? Do you know the concept of horse races? Very popular in Hong Kong. Big round track. In fact, People's Square in Shanghai used to be a horse racetrack. 100 years ago, 80 years ago, it used to be a horse racetrack, People's Square. So, in a typical horse race, the prediction market will declare a favorite. That's called the hot horse. The one that's most likely to win. You bet $2, you might win $2.40 or $2.60. You win a little bit. And then there's what they call the long shot. That's very unlikely to win, but if you win that horse, you bet $2, you might win $10 or $20. Is that right? That's a prediction market. So for an actual race outcome, the favorite may not win. Because if the favorite always won, then always people would just bet the favorite, no one else would win. So sometimes the favorite does not win, the favorite horse. So the racetrack has to have a final say and will crown the final winner, even if there's a photo finish. Do you understand what I'm saying? The racetrack has a final say, they're the final judge, okay? So in that sense, they're the central decision body. They decide who won based on what they see. And they'll show you the photograph, but they will call it. Sometimes very close. They'll say this horse won. Okay? Or they say it's a tie. Okay? So what you have is a centralized horse racetrack. And the question is, can there be a decentralized racetrack without a racetrack sort of judge body? Can they be decentralized? And I argue no, or maybe yes. Maybe you have the prediction market. But the problem is, if you have the prediction market decide, what's going to happen? It'll be the hot horse will all, because that's where the money is. The money said that horse is most likely to win, and if you let that audience vote, guess what? That horse wins. Because that's where the money is. That's like the proof of work, proof of money, however you want to call it. Okay, so the point is that I'm not a big fan of that, because like imagine the air quality in Beijing. What's a ppm? Is it the U.S. consulate measurement? 280 ppm? Or is it the Chinese government measurement? Only 105 ppm? Is it, how do you do it? Proof of work? Proof of Communist Party members saying, how many, right? So that's why oracles and stuff like that, I'm just not crazy about it, okay? Good question. Okay, you want to stand up? Who was the first to stand up and get asked? Okay, there you go, go ahead. What am I going to do?
What are you planning to do for the next 12 months?
For the next 12 months, I'm going to sit in front of my computer and look at Bitcoin price. No, it's a good question. I don't have anything planned yet. A lot of people are asking me, I offer consulting services, paid consulting. A lot of people ask me to invite me to go to do talks. So I do a lot of talks internationally and maybe even in China. And people ask me to be advisor and for the projects. And unfortunately, I've had to turn many people down. Yeah, for the reasons I've talked about.
We have heard like there's a lack of infrastructure in blockchain.
Lack of infrastructure.
In your opinion, what is the most urgent to solve?
To me, Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, what we lack is not infrastructure. I think what we lack right now is education, understanding. I think the world still doesn't understand what crypto is, the value, right? I showed you the mooncake versus a mooncake coupon, right? Two different things. Like, how many of you, USDT is a big topic today. How many of you have USDT? Come on, I won't look. Raise your hand.
Never had USDT ever.
Did you ever raise your hand? Just one person here? Okay. But you know that there's a difference between if you really hold USDT or if you hold USDT on an exchange. Did you know there's a difference? Was I over your head? Okay, well first of all, there's a difference between USD and USDT. So I asked people, what's the price of Bitcoin? Someone says $7,000. No, that's a USDT price of Bitcoin. The USD price of Bitcoin is only $6,500 today. Why is there $500 difference? Oh, people say, oh, it's because exchange, different country. No. It's a different thing. You're measuring USDT price versus USD price. Two different things. Okay? So education. A lot of it is knowledge education. I've been involved in this space for 7.5 years, and I'm still learning. So what I know today is a lot more than what I knew 5 years ago, 7 years ago. And I assume, even if you're 10 times smarter than me, it takes you 1 year to learn everything I've learned so far. So yeah, it's tough. It's really hard. A lot of confusion. Okay, first to stand up. Go ahead.
How to frozen stable currency with
How to freeze stable currency with USD? Good question. The only way to have a truly reliable and stable USD stablecoin is for it to be issued and backed by the Federal Reserve. If it's not issued and backed by the Federal Reserve, in my mind, it's not good enough as a USD stablecoin.
Can you back up with cash and frozen?
No. Even if you give me the cash, I won't do it. It's not going to be as good.
Insurance or
No, there's always a third party. Even if you have Berkshire Hathaway, the highest rated insurance company, if they backed it, there is still a bond risk. There is still a credit risk.
Government is more high risk.
No. Government is not more high risk than the US dollar because the US dollar essentially is government's high risk.
High risk than US dollars as bank.
No, I give you my answer. If you want my answer, that's my answer. Some people might give you a different answer. Yeah. Okay, first to stand up.
Is the price of Bitcoin important for adoption? And what is the correlation?
That's a great question. Is the price of Bitcoin important for adoption? I would say no, it's not. When I go out speaking at conferences, I charge speaking fees. And I quote my fee in US dollars, but I take Bitcoin. So it doesn't matter what price of Bitcoin is. I quote my fee and they pay me that amount of US dollars equivalent in whatever Bitcoin price is at the time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Bitcoin's $1, $6,000, or in the end it's going to be $100,000 or $500,000. It doesn't matter. Because when you make vendor payments, when you make personal payments, you're paid in nominal value in a currency that's that's less volatile. Bitcoin will always be volatile, I'll tell you that. Good question. Okay, someone else had a question. Stand up. Yeah, right there. On the what? Education. Yeah, they'll issue stock electronically via STOs, via security tokens. That's fine. That's fine, but that's all going to be very regulated. I think that's exciting, interesting. But the token ICO, that so-called reckless, non-regulated issuance of ICO tokens, the crowd sale stuff, that's really risky stuff. Yeah. Okay, question. Next question. Yeah, right there, Aaron. I do agree, I very much agree that of all the coins out there, there are definitely great teams and great projects pushing the technology forward. I agree that. In other words, Bitcoin is not the only thing that's pushing technology forward. I see a lot of technology being pushed forward by all the other coins and stuff like that. I agree. However, if they're doing it for the wrong reason, then that's where morally I cannot support that. Right? If they're like what they call pump and dump, anyways, a lot of those. So and the hard part is figuring out which ones are legit, which ones are not. It goes back to the earlier question about listing fees. Which ones do you list, which ones do you not list? It's really tough. It's really tough. Yeah. So I just close my eyes. Okay. Next question. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, you get the last question. Are there any other good usages? Honestly, if there were a great usage for blockchain that I thought of, either I'd already be doing it. Well, okay, basically, if there is, you wouldn't see me on stage. That's right, because if there was a secret answer, like a secret solution or secret, awesome use case, I'd be doing it. I already have my startup. I'd be trying to hire you and hiring people, and I'll be in stealth mode. But I've been thinking. But honestly, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about it really hard. Like what I talked about today. It's a personal story. I'll share this with you. Do we have 5 minutes to share a story? Okay. A year and a half ago, as you know, BTCC, we have a wallet called Mobi. Mobi wallet. So last year, in the hype of the ICO stuff, I actually worked with some team members, some of you in this room, to what if we could launch a blockchain for Mobi and fundraise for Mobi and do an Mobi ICO. Right? We already had the Mobi product, the wallet, it was running without a blockchain, without an ICO. And we're like, oh, maybe we could just jam a blockchain onto it, and launch an ICO and raise, $50 million for the company. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? This is early, mid-2017. And a lot of people were supportive. My investors were supportive, my co-founders were supportive, my employees were supportive, my team members were all supportive. But we go and look into it, and it just did not work. We could have written a white paper that was shabby, that was sort of scammy, that was sort of like copy-paste. We could have done that. We could have launched a fake blockchain and just shoehorned it into the Mobi product, issued Mobi tokens, sort of forced people to use Mobi tokens when you use Mobi, when you do transactions. We could have done all that. In the end, I couldn't make it work. It just didn't work. In the end, it was a centralized blockchain. It was exactly the thing I talked about. It was a centralized blockchain. It was a centralized blockchain where I, or the company, the Mobi company, had the master key. We would decide more the Mobi transactions. Because with Mobi, we didn't give users their private keys. Right? So it would be centralized, it would be a sham. So for that reason, we did not launch the Mobi ICO. Now, I have to thank the PBOC. They gave me a graceful exit. They told me to shut down. I'm like, okay, all right, in that case, we'll just shut it down. No, but seriously, right? Like last year, we tried to do that, and we didn't do it because it didn't compute. Like we couldn't figure out should it be proof of work, should it be proof of stake, blockchain? Why not just use Bitcoin? You know, all these questions I asked earlier, I face these questions and issues myself. And the learnings from that episode is what leads me today to this, you know, maybe it's a strong maximalist view, maybe it's an anti-blockchain view. But the view I have today is I've gone full circle, right? I've come full circle. I started as a big fan of blockchain, telling people that BTCC stands for Blockchain Technologies and Cryptocurrency. It'll save the world, just give me your money. Right? To someone who says now, blockchain technologies, the first and most important use case is actually cryptocurrency, and I haven't seen anything else that's really great with it. Okay? But if you have great projects, you want to come for me as an advisor, consultant, feel free to come over and talk to me, right? I'll give you my best shot at it. Okay? All right, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. If you have Twitter, you can add me. My Twitter account is Bobby C. Lee, BOBBYCLEE. The more of you who add me, the higher the Bitcoin price will go. Because the number of followers I have on Twitter is my Bitcoin price target. Today it's $79,000. Okay? All right, thank you all.
So thank you so much. We were honored to have Bobby Lee here with us. And maybe I take this microphone. So I want to close this event first by thanking all the sponsors for this event to make this happen. We have Dropchain involved, we have Vote Protocol, we have EMX, Minilot, and Chainfunder, and yeah, I hope I didn't forget anyone. Skypad, of course, Skypad for the venue, for sure. So we've heard a lot today, from Crypto Mondays to Crypto Moon Days to Crypto Moon Cakes. So we're really happy and excited to have this event tonight. And we're looking forward to have you back in 2 weeks from now, which is the Monday 29th, I think. And so from here, we're going now to a bar called TY9, I think. So TY9, right? TY7, so TY7. We'll share the address of the venue of the bar in the group. It's like 5 minutes walk from here. Welcome to join us, and thank you so much for being here tonight, and see you next time. Thank you.